Having the courage to begin again. Hi, this is Dale Byron with Heartwork Podcast, Poems as Inner Work for Heart and Soul, or as we like to say, effortless poetry, plain and simple. Now, let's get right into our theme of having the courage to begin again with a poem by Brendan Kennelly called Begin. It goes like this. Begin again to the summoning birds, to the sight of the light at the window. Begin to the roar of morning traffic all along Pembroke Road. Every beginning is a promise. Every beginning is a promise. Born in light and dying in dark. Determination and exaltation of springtime flowering the way to work. Begin to the pageant of queuing girls, the arrogant loneliness of swans in the canal, bridges linking the past and future, old friends passing through with us still. Begin to the loneliness that cannot end, since it perhaps is what makes us begin. Begin to wonder at unknown faces. Begin to wonder at unknown faces, at crying birds in the sudden rain, at branches stark in the willing sunlight, at seagulls foraging for bread, at couples sharing a sunny secret, alone together while making good, alone together while making good. Though we live in a world that dreams of ending, though we live in a world that dreams of ending, that always seems about to give in, something that will not acknowledge conclusion, insist that we forever begin. Though we live in a world that dreams of ending, that always seems about to give in, something that will not acknowledge conclusion, insist that we forever begin. Having the courage to begin again, of course, is the subject of this poem. And I think that we are called more and more these days to have that courage, to be able to start again, even when we're being pulled into despair by some political fact or ecological unfolding. All of those things putting great pressure on us all. So I made a note for myself. I said, despair is that feeling of ending. Full stop, full stop. Despair is just ending. It's ended without a prayer of a new beginning. So it takes a great courage to begin again. I don't mean to delude ourselves to begin again. I don't mean to have hopium or false hope, as it's sometimes referred to, in order to begin again. I mean to have all of the difficulty right there at our touch and still begin again. This guy, I also noted, writes with such heart that we're encouraged to use our own heart with good and healing purpose. This is one of the things I think a very foundational, fundamental thing that a poem like this can do for us. And I would say, of course, does the poem work for you? You know, our whole thing is being able to step inside a poem and have our own experience. So does it nudge you? Does it nudge your feelings? Does it nudge you with ideas? Does it bring your head and heart together? I think that is really the question that we keep asking ourselves here on Heart Work. And I thought I would read, this is something that a critic wrote about Brendan Kennelly, and I thought it was worth sharing. Newspapers, the critic said about Kennelly, newspapers celebrate greatness, heroism, achievement, and genius in our midst, but sometimes don't pay sufficient attention to the real heroes who matter to us, the people who make a serious contribution to a nation's mental and spiritual well-being. A giant in this area, Brendan Kennelly, he is the people's poet. He spends his life wandering and thinking and daring to think and see differently. He also asks impossible questions and suggests unthinkable answers about the things that really matter. And he refuses to be precious or out of touch with the rest of us. As each of us starts our day, there will be a calling, particularly in the most difficult times, for us to be able to have the courage to begin again over and over and over again. This is one of the things in meditation that I've learned, this idea that no matter how difficult our current situation is, we can pay attention to the breath for a moment, pay attention to the body, and then to begin again. To begin again, to not be attached to whatever troubles, whatever difficulties that we have had. Again, not to delude ourselves, but to begin again in a kind of fresh way. Courage, core, the heart, to begin again. As he said in the poem, though we live in a world that dreams of ending, though we live in a world that dreams of ending, and I would say a world that sometimes celebrates this idea of I want to know what's going to happen. I can't handle uncertainty. So in the face of uncertainty, I will go to despair, even as painful as that is. And so this poem, the theme of this podcast this week is to say, wait a minute, how can we begin again? How can we step into the next moment and not drag all of that difficulty, no matter if we've been having it for a day or a week or hours or whatever, but how can we begin again? Though we live in a world that dreams of ending, that always seems about to give in, something that will not acknowledge conclusion, insist that we forever begin. Thank you so much for your listening ear. Until next time and next poem, please take good care of yourself and if you can, someone else.